All right, we're going to be talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Brodric Martin, and this is in response to, thankfully, I mean, a lot of audience members awoken me today to a apparent problem that we have with pick number 96 out of the 2023 draft, and I guess a lot of distrust in Brad Holmes over what has transpired, and even some players that we picked Brodric in front of. So anyway, I was called upon for clarity. I'm going to try to provide some clarity. I'm also going to give you a ton of facts and some stats because that's what I do. And I'm going to try to get you the truth here of what's really going on, in my opinion, about what's happening. And let's stop with all this negative Nancy Karen bullcrap and talking trash about our team and talking trash about Brad Holmes because, well, you know what? Let's just get into it. Let's just get straight into it, and hopefully it makes a lot of sense. First and foremost, Brad Holmes traded up twice. And then, well, he traded back twice on day 2 of 2023. Now, he moved up into the third round to take Brodric Martin from Western Kentucky at pick number 96. But the question is, how did we get there, right? How did Brad Holmes even get to that position? What transpired in that draft that led us to taking Brodric Martin? Well, first, he gave up a 4th round pick, number 122. And then he gave up 2 fifth-round picks, number 139 and 168, to get into that position. Well, how did we get there? Well, he traded back from number 6 to number 12 in round 1. And in the meantime, we picked up pick 34, pick 12, and pick 168. So one pick was a freebie already. And, we got Jahmyr Gibbs out of the deal that was taken at number 12, who clearly is the best running back in the league soon. I mean, many of us think that he probably already is. He's probably the best running back taken in the draft in the last 3 seasons, last 3 drafts. So maybe we should just stop our bitching and whining and complaining a little bit when you actually look at what Brad Holmes has done. Because he literally snagged, like I said, the best running back that we have had in a very long time. Many compare him to Barry Sanders Light. And look, I'm happy with it. Genius move, chef's kiss. Brad Holmes. Beautiful work. But then Brad Holmes trades back again. And this time he sent pick 63 and 183 to Denver. In exchange, we nabbed pick 68 and 139. Oh, that's not so much a freebie, but 139, we just moved up 44 spots by trading back 5. But it's just a 5th-round pick. It's not like these picks even really matter a whole lot. Very few and far between do these picks rarely work out or even play. So I get what Brad's doing here. And at pick 68, we took Hendon Hooker. So far, so good, right? Okay, let's talk about the defensive line. The 53-man roster for 2024 looked like this. It was Aiden, it was Davenport, it was DJ Reader, it was Ali McNeil, Levi O, Josh Paschal, Mekhi Wingo, John Kaminsky, who was headed to IR, and James Houston, who just didn't work out. Now, missing the cut was Isaac Ukwu, Kyle Pecco, Matthew Betts, Chris Smith, and Pat O'Connor. On the reserved injured list was Brodric Martin. Now, look, the Lions had 4 defensive ends already on this roster. We kept 9, right? 9 on the defensive line. We had 4 defensive ends. Here, let me spell it out for you. We had Aiden, we had Davenport, and we had Josh Paschal, who's the hybrid, and Mekhi Wingo, who's the hybrid. We also had James Houston, so technically we had 5, right? But then we also had 4 defensive tackles when you look at it. You had DJ Reader, Ali McNeil, Levi O, Josh Paschal, and Mekhi Wingo, both hybrids. So really, the Lions kept 9, but when you look at it, we kind of kept 10 because, I mean, 4 of these guys on either side, but 2 of them are hybrids. So when you really shake it out, it's like 5 and 5. Now, obviously, John Kaminsky was headed to IR, so that was going to bring us down to 8. And then we eventually brought Kyle Pecco back. So it all made sense, right? It all made sense. We ended up keeping 9. So the Lions had, look, they're in a sticky place at the 53-man cuts because everybody got injured. A lot of players were getting injured. Kaminsky, Martin, and others. The last game of the season for preseason. So having injuries like that and sending players to IR ahead of the 53-man cut day, it's a sticky place to be because the rules, they're not in your favor. It's not easy, right? You could lose guys for the season. And obviously Brad wasn't trying to lose guys for the season. So I think we can move past that now. Now, this was a year, I guess, according to some SOL fans, that we must have had a pass rush in 2024's draft or whatever, 23's draft, really. And we didn't do anything? What didn't we do? I mean, we just drafted Brodric Martin in 23 instead of addressing D-line or edge. Well, Martin is D-line. We didn't address edge, I guess you could say. But what kind of a statement is that? The Lions were the 27th ranked defensive line after 2023. And in 2024, to start the season, they were the wide consensus as the 5th rated defensive line to start the season. In training camp, I came out of the first day and I said, this is the best defensive line I have ever seen in Detroit since 2014. It's been a decade. And I was right. I was very right. And the depth was the biggest reason why. Now, the Lions, according to Sharp Football Analysis, said that the biggest jump that Detroit had made since the 23 season was on the defensive front. They moved up 22 spots to finish at 5th place in their rankings ahead of the 2024 season. Don't believe me? Go look it up yourself. How about Sports Illustrated? They said that the defensive line was key to a run defense that finished 2nd in the league in yards against on the ground. The Lions also held their opponents under 100 yards on the ground in 12 games, including a Week 16 game against Minnesota, which they held the Vikings to 17 yards. The Lions finished tied for 23rd in the league with 41 sacks. Now in 24, we are hovering right in the middle. I think we finished at 16 or 17, right in that range. Kansas City and the Eagles were within earshot of us. They had like 2 or 3 more sacks than us. So you can't say that we didn't address something, and then the 2 teams that make the Super Bowl barely have any more sacks than we do. Okay? I mean, let's be honest here. Aleem McNeil clearly played a much bigger role in 23 and in 24. 23 was kind of his breakout year. It was a season where, yeah, he did suffer a knee injury in Week 13, but man, was he trending. He was trending in a big way. He had a huge breakout season, in my opinion. He dropped a bunch of weight. He got more flexible. He spent a lot of time in the offseason managing his body. And also, hey, he showed Brodric Martin a thing or two, because when Brodric came to camp in 24, he also dropped some weight, looked a lot better. Unfortunately, his knee injury sidelined him for the season. He got a couple of snaps in, but in snap counts, we'll get to that. That don't matter. To start 2024, tell me why the Lions defense was ranked 2nd as a unit, right, in the defensive line through 8 weeks if we didn't address the D-line. The D-line was literally ranked 2nd. Now, you can go look at PFF and look it all up yourself, or any other site that you want to look at. They were the consensus 2nd ranked unit through the first 8 weeks of 2024. Now, by week 9, we had lost Davenport, Hutchinson, Barnes, Iffy, Rodrigo, Pascal, Pecco, Mabin. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 defensive linemen and 2 linebackers by week 9. That is huge. Teams don't come back from that, right? The Lions did. And by the way, if it wasn't for the Lions bringing in DJ Reader, you know, the guy that we addressed the defensive line with in 2024, and then the other guy, Aleem McNeil, who was having a crazy good season with the addition of DJ Reader, playing at another top-tier level in 2024, he was ranked, Aleem, one of the best defensive tackles in the game through like the first, 11 weeks of the season until, he got injured. I don't remember what week it was, but he was one of the best defensive tackles in the game. And, obviously a big part of why the Lions were able to shut 4 teams out of the end zone this season. Also, another big part, which you have to give more credit to a team that just won 15 games, you have to give a little bit more credit to the defense too. If it wasn't for that defense, we don't win 15 games. We might not even win 12. We might not have been a 1 seed. We might not even have won the division. But I'll tell you what, man, a top 5 defensive points allowed team. The Lions were pitching a 17.7 points per game for more than half the season. And it wasn't until all of these injuries stacked up. Again, we don't even have to talk about Brodric yet, because the season wasn't about him. And neither was last season. The Lions did what they did without him, but there wasn't room for another guy to take a place on the bench and not play. Again, you're talking about, a team that was down to its 6th and 7th and 8th defensive end. Literally. Because they had to bring people in. They had to snag 3 people off practice squads in one day. They had to bring in Zadarius Smith at the trade deadline, and a whole rash of other moves that they did. Now, McNeil had a huge step up when Aiden went down. He was ranked 78.7 pass rush grade, which was 5th at his position, and his 24 pressures were 2nd most in the league through the first 9 weeks of the season. But we didn't address the defensive line at all. Let me ask you again, what do we need to address? Pass rush? Okay. Defensive line? Got it. I don't know what planet y'all live on. I don't know if this is just fairy tale land, unicorn world. I don't get it. Maybe it's the hindsight 2020 country where we're just going to pump a bunch of videos about the same player or players, and we keep on doing it because we just want to stoke anger and resentment towards Brad Holmes and the Detroitlions team for whatever reason. I don't know why you want to do that. As a Lions fan, I wouldn't want to do that. But just think for a moment. Is there any team out there that has a 5th, a 6th, a 7th defensive end? No, you're wrong. There isn't. Matter of fact, go find me a team that even has 2 defensive ends as good as their first 2. Because that's essentially what's being said here. The Lions didn't address edge. They didn't address defensive tackle or edge, and they should have. And if they would have brought somebody in the draft or free agency, then we would have won more football games. Nah, wouldn't have happened. Matter of fact, instead of Davenport going down in week 3, it could have been Myles Garrett going down in week 3. Instead of Aiden Hutchinson going down, maybe Max Crosby was filling in on that play. Could have been him. Anything could have happened. But at the end of the day, you can't change the outcome, right? Like Brad Holmes says, we can't sit here and wish it. So maybe you go find me another team that has just as dominant 3rd and 4th options behind their starters, so that when the first 2 go down, they can just keep clipping off quarterbacks. And when you do, I'll donate $100 to whatever charity you want. But that'll never get paid because you're never going to find it. Because there's not a 3 and a 4 that have the same sack totals and pressure rates and everything else as the first 2. It doesn't exist. Not one team has it. Not one. So the next thing is just hilarious. This came out of left field. This is what got me to do this video today. We selected Brodric Martin before Josh Sweat and Max Crosby and Amon-Ra St. Brown. These guys weren't even in the same draft. Max Crosby was 2019, Sweat was 2018, and Amon-Ra St. Brown was 2021. How can you just blatantly lie to people and say that we selected Brodric Martin before all of those players? Come on, man. It's not possible. I can't believe people believe this stuff. But let's just be honest here. No 2 drafts are the same. Ever. They're not deep the same way they were the year before. The class of players is different. Each positional group is different from depth and, I mean, even high-level talent. You might honestly have a couple high-level guys in each positional group, where some years you might have 5. So we have to keep all of that into perspective here, right? So let's do this. Let's take a look. I'm just going to get silly with it. You know what? Let's just take a look at all of the players that were available. Let's do pick 122. Let's do pick 139, 168, and 183, since we traded all of those picks around and ended up with 96 and 68 and selected Brodric Martin. So let's do that, shall we? You tell me who was available. First, let's jump it right in here. We'll go to pick number 96. And there's your boy, Brodric Martin from Western Kentucky. Yeehaw. Way to go, Brad Holmes. All right, who could we have taken? All right, well, right after Brodric was Siaka Ika. Is he a better option? We don't know yet. Siaka Ika's stats, let's take a look. Oh, a big blank. Huh. Well, that one didn't work out. Let's look at the next one, shall we? Oh, well, there's not another defensive tackle or an edge after 96. That means we're going to have to go to the next round, round 4. All right, we have... Oh, Dylan Horton. He must have been the game changer that we needed. 6'4", 257. All right, this guy's got some stats. He's, 29 career tackles. Goose egg for sacks. Huh. Well, he wasn't it. He wasn't the game changer we needed. All right, Adama Warrior. I actually would like this dude. Would have loved to have had him on our team. 6'2", 282. Interesting prospect. Well, 9 total, solo, 2.5 sacks. Oh my God, that probably would have won us 3 games, right? 2.5 sacks. That would have definitely won us three additional games. We would have won the Super Bowl this year. Come on, people. Let's be honest with ourselves, please. Just for a moment, do some research. Stop reading or stop watching everything. Go do some research. How about Kobe Wooden? Defensive tackle that we could have taken way after. Let's take a look. Okay, 37 total, 19 solo, half a sack. Rotational piece, defensive tackle, not a starter. I mean, would he have been the game changer that we needed at pick 116? All right, so now let's dip down. 122, John Gaines II, offensive guard. That's who was taken with our pick at 122. Definitely not the game changer that we're looking for. How about Cameron Young, Mississippi State defensive tackle? He was taken, 18 total. 0 sacks, another goose egg. Interesting. Not the game changer we're looking for, right? All right, how about Isaiah McGuire? He's got to be it. McGuire, with that last name, this has to be the guy. Oh, almost is. All right, we got 42 tackles, 23 solo, 3.5 sacks. This guy would have put us in the Super Bowl. 1,000%. Right? I don't think so, people. I don't think so. I'm still trying to find this game changer. This 10-sack guy, 15-sack. I mean, this guy didn't even play a snap yet. Right? Kind of like Brodric Martin hasn't played a snap. You find that interesting that a lot of guys in the 3rd and 4th round haven't played a lot of snaps. Do you know why? Because guys in the 3rd round play less than 15% of all of the snaps in the NFL per season. That's why. And so the guys in the 4th and the 5th and the 6th round, why do you think, where do you think they are? It's even less. Tyler Lacey, defensive tackle, picked at, I don't know what pick it was. Where was he? 130. 37 career tackles, man. No sacks. 0 game changers after Brodric Martin so far. And now we are down to pick 139 going into the 5th round. And you guys are wondering why Brad moved up. I'm going to tell you what you should be mad at here in just a moment. So I'm going to go to pick 139, and that was Clayton Tune, quarterback. Clearly not the guy we needed. Let's go to 168. I'm going to skip through some of these. I will go through it again just to show you. Owen Popo. I really like this dude. Inside linebacker. Probably could have used one. 6 foot, 225, a little undersized, 39 total tackles, 0 sacks. Not the game changer we're looking for. We definitely could have used another linebacker, though, right? Absolutely, we could have. Okay, now we're down to the last pick, 183. That is going to be the 6th round, ladies and gentlemen. This is where all of these game changers are. Now, Carl Brooks, he's an interesting prospect. I actually like this dude, too. Let's see how well he's played for Green Bay. He might surprise us a little bit. 7.5 sacks. Okay, this is one of those gems, right? This is one of those late round gems that just don't happen very often. But this guy absolutely could have helped us out. 6'3", 296 pounds. He's kind of that big end, right? Exactly what we needed. But 3.5 sacks in 2024, 7.5 sacks for his career so far. This is the only player so far that could have actually helped us. And he is at pick 179. Just 4 more picks to 183. J.L. Skinner. And there's nothing that we could have done later because we didn't have any other picks, right? So, again, there's only one player out of this whole draft that made any sense. And that is none other than Carl Brooks, who I actually like I said. Are you with it yet? Are you guys getting it yet? Brad would have had to have somehow figured out that Carl Brooks was the guy. If you think he's that big of a genius, which I think he's done pretty damn well, I mean, that's like picking a needle out of a haystack. A 6th round pick that actually is going to have a little bit of production. I guess Brad made a huge mistake because he didn't take Carl Brooks. He didn't keep all these picks and not get us Hendon Hooker and Jahmyr Gibbs and others, and Sam Laporta and Brian Branch and Jack Campbell. I mean, my goodness, Brad has given us 7 All-Pros so far since 2021, 4 of which he drafted. Let me tell you who you should be pissed about. Let me tell you why you guys are missing the boat here. If you're really blaming Brodric Martin for our seasons, it is not. It absolutely is not Brodric Martin that you should be pissed about. There was a few other players, right? At pick 68, there was Byron Young from the Rams, and there was Yaya Diaby and Kobe Turner. Those are a few players that I would have taken. So the pick that you should be pissed about is Hendon Hooker, not Brodric Martin. If Brad wouldn't have taken Hendon Hooker, and if we would have survived with whatever second, third, fourth option quarterbacks that we could have found on the open market, then there's your answer. Yaya Diaby and Kobe Turner. Cameron Young didn't do squat, at 122, but I'm curious. What did Byron Young do? Both Byron Youngs. Yaya Diaby, and let's just bring it back up. Let's take a look. So let's get back into round 3. And there's Hendon Hooker at pick 68. Well, let's take a look at Byron Young for just a moment. He went to the Rams at pick 70, 6'3", 294. Yeah, he hasn't done squat. Well, that's not going to help us. Okay. Well, let's keep motoring down. There's Byron Young. Went to the Rams from Tennessee, 6'2", 250. Oh, wait a second. That's that dude. 15.5 sacks. So if you want to blame Brad for something, blame him for taking Hendon Hooker. Do not blame him for taking Brodric Martin, because I guarantee you, and what you're going to find out in just a moment, that Brodric Martin is not that bad of a pick. Yeah, he hasn't played a whole lot yet, but he's not that bad of a pick. And I'll explain why in a minute. Yaya Diaby. I think this guy's an up and down type of character, but 12 sacks. If you want sacks, those are your sacks. So those two gentlemen right there, Brad should have moved up, back up into the 3rd round and grabbed Yaya Diaby and Byron Young. Those are the players. And then there's Kobe Turner. He's the guy that I mocked to the Lions. And I thought for sure that they were going to have an opportunity to grab him. Kobe Turner's been an absolute animal since he's been in the league. 17 sacks. 17 sacks so far through his career. Best rookie defensive tackle, in my opinion, that came out of the draft that year. So Brad Holmes, that's where he missed the boat. He missed the boat by taking Hendon Hooker. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe it's my fault because I'm the one that mocked Hendon Hooker to us right at that position, right there in that section of the draft. But let me tell you why Brodric Martin is not that bad of a player. Number one, like I said, the information's out there. 15% or less of all 3rd-round draft picks do not play. I'm sorry, 15% of all of the players in the NFL that play on Sundays are 3rd-round draft picks. 15%. That's it. So out of all the picks that have been taken, out of all of the players in the NFL, 15% will play. That's not good odds, everybody. It's just not. But even if you want to say that his RAS score is bad, okay, who cares? Here's why I'll tell you it's not that big of a deal. Number one, let me pull up my measurements. I've shown you guys this stuff before, but I'm going to show you why. But what I'm about to show you might shock you. It might shock you just a little bit because people are making fun of his RAS score, right? And there's a little bit more to this than what meets the eye. So this is the best defensive tackles ever, in my opinion, to play the game, at least the ones that I can find data on. I had to throw a couple of rookies in here from the last couple of seasons. Ali McNeil is up in there because he deserves to be there. Brodric Martin, even if you were to give him all of the crappy scores, which would be the bronze, right? 5.35 for his 40 or 5.36 for his 40. That's a bronze. That's 1 point. A 1.73 10 yards or 1.75 10-yard split. That's not the worst ever. How about 25 vertical, 100 inches on the broad, 20 reps of 225. He does have 2 elite things, his weight and his arm length. He has 2 great things, his height and his APE score, as well as his hand size is, it's a little bit below average. Overall, he scored a 26 out of 50. Not great. But let's look at where you would have taken him in the round. Anything greater than 20 is going to go in rounds 5 through 7. Anything greater than 24 is going to go in rounds 4. Wait a second. Where was Brodric taken? He was taken, he scored a 26. So he's between round 4 and round 3. He was taken at the end of round 3. You guys act like this is a huge reach. The fact that he was taken at the end of round 3, I mean, look, not much is going to happen between 96 and 100. or 104 or 122. You may have taken him one round early. The only difference is you paid him a little bit more money because of where you took him. But let me go back to the other screen and tell you why this is not that bad. When you look at, his measurables, here's the best that's ever done it. Brodric had 20 reps for 225, right? 20. Jonathan Allen had 21. Calais Campbell had 16. Okay, he had a 100-inch broad. Fletcher Cox was 108. Haloti Ngata was 110. And Ndamukong Suh, 105. Chris Jones, 106. Jonathan Hargrave, 109. Christian Wilkins, 107. Jonathan Allen, 108. Aleem McNeil, 108. If you think that 8 inches is going to separate an NFL player from being good or great or, someone that doesn't play at all to someone that starts, I think you're wrong, right? This is going to tell us a little bit about their burst. Doesn't tell us about their heart. Okay. How about vertical? He was 25 inches on the vertical. Well, Chris Jones had 24.5 inches. And there was a couple of other players close to him. Fletcher Cox at 26. Deron Payne, 28.5. Okay, how about 10-yard split? Haloti Ngata, 175, and Christian Wilkins, 176. Right in line with Brodric Martin. And a lot of other players kind of right in that same boat. I'm sorry, Geno Atkins should also be gold here. Geno Atkins in the same boat, 175. How about Ndamukong Suh, 174? How about Justin Matabuiki, 173? You going to tell me that 2/100ths of a second is going to separate Brodric Martin from somebody else? It really doesn't. How about the 40? Well, he had a terrible 40. It was like 5.36. Haloti Ngata ran a 5.18. And nobody else really came close. But here's the thing. These are the elite of the elite players. This is not your average player. Okay? And so Brodric had the worst scores of agility. But his measurements, they're great. And at the end of the day, here's what I'm trying to tell you. And I don't need to sell you, but here's what I'm going to tell you. You can teach agility. You can teach strength. You can have somebody get stronger, longer, leaner. But you can't teach height. You can't teach hand size, arm length, wingspan, or any of that stuff. So when you grab a player like Brodric Martin, who planned on probably being a 2-year project for Brad Holmes, turned into a 3-year project because of an injury. But you can't teach the first half. You can teach the second. You can't teach speed. He doesn't need a bunch of speed. But you can have him get longer and leaner and stronger, which is what I'm expecting for Brodric Martin. Let me wrap this up for you guys in a nice little bow here. Or at least let me try. I'm sick of hearing all this crap about Brodric Martin and Brad Holmes. It's old. It is stale. And what happens is you don't get told all of the facts or the stats that maybe you don't go and look up. You don't take the time like I just wasted 2 hours of my day doing. Right? Brad Holmes said this about Brodric. Let's call him an under-the-radar guy. A non-combine guy who showed up at the East-West Shrine All-Star game and did a really, really nice job. And that's really when he popped up on my radar. It's what made me dive deeper into his film. You see him playing in some better competition games like Auburn, and you see some stuff kind of late. He just has a lot of physical traits that get you really excited about his upside. Brad never took this guy because he was going to be an immediate starter. Brad took this guy because of his upside. Martin, 6'5", 337 pounds. Matter of fact, he is the exact same size of a guy coming out of the draft this year, Deone Walker. Now, Martin started all 14 games in his final season at Western Kentucky in 2022. He made 31 tackles, had 1.5 sacks. He also forced a fumble and notched 7 quarterback hurries and broke up 2 passes. He spent 3 seasons prior to that at Northern Alabama before he transferred. Brad also said this guy is a big man, but he moves a lot better on film. He had a really good pro day. It's hard to find big athletic guys like that, and it is. They do not grow on trees. And you claim the same thing over and over and over and get it wrong every time, and then you say the same thing again the next season, and then 3 or 4 times during the season because you can't evaluate players, or maybe you don't know how, or you constantly get the draft wrong or free agency wrong, and you just don't know what to do anymore but make the same videos over and over and over. You kind of like you become a Klingon, right? You cling on to this hope that one day you're going to get it right, that one day Brad's going to make a big move. And even though you've been wrong for 4 years, you're finally like in the 5th season, oh, see, I told you so. We needed a pass rusher. and we take one in the first round, or we finally grab somebody decent enough in free agency. What happened to all the previous 4 seasons that you got it wrong and we won the NFC North, and we won 2 playoff games, and we won the 1 seed, and we won the NFC North back-to-back? Yeah, we exited the divisional round because we didn't have any freaking football players. Not because of the pass rush. It's because everybody was injured. In my opinion, Brodric Martin is going to be a fine player. If he doesn't pan out, he doesn't pan out. But there was nobody else in that draft that made sense after pick 96. Maybe one guy or 2. It's a big stretch. But you had to get that guy in the 6th round. If you're going to blame Brad for something, you blame him for Hendon Hooker, not Brodric Martin. And I can't wait to see Brodric's transformation this season. And I hope that he stays healthy and he's going to play nose tackle, which is where he belongs. And we need him to step up because Aleem McNeil is injured. He was playing great last season into preseason. We'll see what happens this year. But you can't hide from all the facts that I just spit. You can't hide from all the stats that I just gave you. Whether you want to believe in it or not, the truth will always set you free. It will. And the truth about Brodric Martin is about to be seen here in 2025. He was brought in to be a depth rotational piece, not a starter. And it doesn't mean that he can't work himself into becoming a starter. But that's not why he was brought into Detroit. And don't kid yourself. You do not have Jahmyr Gibbs, right, or Brian Branch, or some of these other guys, Sam Laporta, without some of these moves that Brad Holmes has made. Some of those moves involved Brodric Martin. And our team is much better for it. So that's all for this video. Go One Pride, go Detroit Lions. Quit being a hater. Support your Lions, man. Let's just do it.
You can do it!